Hey there, cats and kittens. Welcome to Crossover Attack, episode 13. I am Calamity Eric Freshley, joined here by Hylian Hunter Davenport.
That's right, it's me. Korok, Enslaver, Hunter Davenport.
And, hey, guess which game we're going to be talking about this week? Who knows? Could be anything.
I heard this little indie game came out last week. So maybe you've heard of it. This Tears of the Kingdom game.
Yeah, maybe you have. 10 million copies in 3 days. Yeah, it might have made a bit of a splash. I know. I didn't even put...
That's a lot of money.
I didn't even put that stuff in the news, but this thing is fucking taken off. We also are going to talk about the Sony showcase that happened, and just kind of the overall... There's some follow-up news, and we're going to kind of talk about the overall state of Sony, and get into some news. But mostly Zelda, I imagine. So, let me start off by asking you this, Hunter. A game that's about 2 weeks old, maybe 2.5 now. Is it crazy to say this is maybe the best game ever made?
I think it's high up there in the conversation. I don't know, because, to me, I think this Elden Ring really make good points to be made for best in the world category.
Best what category?
Best ever made.
Oh, yeah,
I think this is in the conversation. Yeah, honestly, it's just nuts. Like, I barely even know where to start. I put an embarrassing amount of time in this game. We're all nerds here. We all like to play games, but it's still like almost slightly humiliating to say I've put in about 125 hours in this game right now, according to my Switch. Hey man, it's a good game. It's a really good game. I wish I could. I am at maybe 10 hours only because I've been working a lot, but this game is good.
This is kind of coincided with me just coincidentally when I've had an opportunity where we've had extra people at work and they kind of go from the top down and ask, hey, who wants to go home? So I've taken a lot of nights to go home and just play Zelda all nights.
It's that Zelda time.
Yeah. And I did the first 2 nights. I did streams on streams on Twitch that, I always try to upload my streams onto YouTube after. And this is the first time I've ever seen YouTube have an error say, this video is too long. You can't put a 12-hour video up on YouTube, apparently. So those streams are only archived on Twitch for now. But I've never streamed for that long in one day. And I think I did it 2 days in a row.
It's just that good. Honestly, this game is amazing. Legit. There are things that you can do in this game that amaze me.
Mm-hmm. It's a whole game of saying, oh, that's not going to work. Oh, it did work. I can't believe it. And Breath of the Wild was that too, but this is escalated up to 10.
This is that on crack, really, because it's it is an engineer's dream a little bit, because you can do almost anything. You can build things that are... People are making fully operational Metal Gears.
I saw that.
It's pretty crazy.
I guess we should say kind of before we dive too much into minutia, game's a couple weeks old now, so I don't feel we have to go tiptoe around spoilers too much. I don't think we're going to talk about late game story stuff or anything that, but we're going to talk about some specifics, especially gameplay features and stuff that, hey, maybe they didn't reveal before launch, but now it's been a couple weeks. We're going to talk about them. Mostly, I think, because the biggest thing that they didn't talk about at all, shocked me, is the entire depths, the underground.
Yep.
It's a whole nother map. That's basically the same size as Hyrule.
It's funny because that's essentially what Elden Ring did too. There's maps on maps in that game. It's impossibly huge space.
Yeah, I can't believe they kept that a secret. We knew there were caves, and there are a lot of caves too. That's another thing, but we didn't know there was a whole nother Hyrule underneath the ground.
Yeah, it's crazy.
But you had mentioned kind of the Metal Gear stuff and just the fusion and the Ultra Hand stuff. It's crazy how this game lets you break it. I think we talked about that in the last episode, that we were looking forward to that aspect, and yeah, it's just every shrine and everything. It says, hey, if you get to the end, we don't care how you did it. It wasn't our intended way. We don't give a shit. You did it, so fucking you win. Go for it. And that's such a cool concept. It makes for the stupidest situations possible, and I love that.
Yeah, I've seen some crazy shit in this game. Mm-hmm. People building like flying machines and like orbital lasers to beat bosses, which is nuts.
And I'm here making the dumbest shit.
I've made some dumb shit too, to be honest with you. But honestly, the game is just so well made, and it looks great on the Switch. People are like, "Oh, it looks bad." I'm like, I don't know what you guys are talking about. The game looks good. Like,
so I am. There's actually that's part I wanted to talk about later. Have you beat any dungeons yet or temples?
No, I have not actually.
Ooh, okay. Well, let's see. When you do start to beat like 4 or 5 of them, so Breath of the Wild, you beat a dungeon. I mean, it was a divine beast, and you got like Revali's Gale and different abilities like that. This has something similar, but there's a twist. And I will say, when you start to beat a bunch of them and you get all the extra abilities, I am starting to hit performance issues pretty bad.
Ooh,
okay. I'm not that troubled by them, because in a way you kind of expect them, which maybe isn't fair. That like, hey,
it's a Switch, man.
Yeah, like, exactly. That's the thing. Maybe that's not totally fair, because if this shit were happening on an Xbox game, I'd be livid. And this, I'm like, what are you gonna do? I want to talk more about those abilities in a second, though. But one of the things I did want to mention, again, I'm not hearing a lot of people talk about this, which surprises me, because it was the first thing that blew me away in this game. Is how much more enemy variety there is in Breath of the Wild. Breath of the Wild had, bokoblins, the lizard dudes, guardians, and there was a couple other things, but the bats, but there wasn't a crazy amount of enemies. There's like maybe 10 or 15. This has a ton more.
I also feel like the map feels more alive than Breath of the Wild is, because like I'll like go back past like a bokoblin like settlement, and they'll be fighting the robots, and it's like, oh, okay.
Yes, that was one of them. I had some kind of like at the bottom here in my notes, I had kind of moments I wanted to talk about. There was one there was a camp of bokoblins and a camp of robots just separated by a wood wall, and I don't think they knew that they were on the other side of each other, because they were just, the bokoblins were dancing around the campfire and the robots were doing whatever they did. And I shot a fire arrow to burn down the wall and just let them go to war with each other, and it was awesome. I just sat back and watched. It was like, I used to do that shit in Halo 1 all the time, put the, the Flood against the Covenant, against the Sentinels, and that was kind of awesome to see in this game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and even if we're just talking about the bokoblins, even they have so much more variety, because now they have those boss bokoblins, and they have bokoblins with armor, and bokoblins with, the backpacks that are carrying a bunch of materials. And every enemy group has different variety like that. There's those gorilla things. The gorilla things were the first enemies I saw. Well, I guess the constructors on the Sky Islands, but the gorilla things were the first enemies I saw that were not in Breath of the Wild, and as far as I know, we didn't see them in the pre-release footage for this game, so they just surprised the hell out of me the first time I saw them. And that was like right as I got off the Sky Islands onto Hyrule. They were the first thing I saw, and it blew me away.
Yeah.
And I haven't stopped being blown away.
Nice.
I also like the weapon characteristics. Now they have, if you read the descriptions of the weapons, they have little things like the Zora weapons are more powerful when they're wet, and the night weapons do more damage when you're on your last heart, and just little things that make the different groups actually feel different from each other. Because, Breath of the Wild, they were all the same. A sword's a sword, a sword. Yeah, they'll have different power levels, but that's about it. Now these have those little things. It's not a big deal, but it's just a nice little touch. How do you feel about, because I kind of love these things, the Hudson signs, the guy holding onto the sign.
Oh, the little puzzle they give you, where like, oh, prop it up. I think that's fun. I really do. I really like those.
There's no way to tell how many you've done, but I've probably done like 30 of them. I love them.
I've done 2 or 3.
Okay. Well, there's a ton more.
I've done it enough that it feels, every time I'm like, I get excited when I see them, because I'm like, oh, that's a fun little puzzle.
I always stop at them. I don't always stop at the stranded Koroks. I'll mark them on the map, but the Hudson signs, I always stop, and I always do them.
I stop at the stranded Koroks all the
time. But I do have some complaints. Biggest one, well, I'm sorry, Not the biggest one. The biggest one is the dungeon rewards, which I do want to talk about. But it is kind of weird that half the characters feel like they remember Link and half don't. Even ones you've met before in Breath of the Wild, I've run across some that are like, hey, we talked a lot in that last game and now we're total strangers. And that's kind of a weird deal.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, it's like, it is a world where everything kind of sucks.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'd remember the person who saved me space that well, to be honest with you.
But the biggest thing I do want to talk about. All right, so I'm going to try to be a little vague about this, especially because you haven't beaten any dungeons. But there were the extra abilities you get, and they're not just abilities. There's something else that comes along with them. They're great, or they're about as great as they were in the last game. You know, Raleigh's Gale is very useful. Daruk's Protection is pretty useful. These are about on the same level. However, the control method on how to activate them is fucking inexcusably bad.
Yeah, it's really bad.
Okay, you've seen them then?
Oh, no, I mean, like, the controls in general, I think, are not great, to be honest with you.
Okay. You see, I've gotten used to everything except for these abilities. And it's tough to... It's tough to not say exactly what I'm talking about. I don't know. Yeah. How you tell me how precious you want me to be about... I mean, some of it was in the trailer.
I do know that the rewards... That there is... Okay, do you want me to just spoil what I know? So I know that you get like a little party, RPG party, essentially.
Okay, I'm glad you know that because that's what I was dancing around saying.
Yeah, I know that.
Okay, and I love that. I was hoping that you would have companions. I think that's fucking awesome, and I love that they just fight alongside you. What I don't love, each one of them comes with an extra ability. The way you activate it is you have to actually walk up to that companion and hit A and get him to activate the ability. In the middle of combat, when everybody's running around, that's fucking so hard to do because it's like you're playing tag in the middle of a fight because they're running around. They're not nearby, especially the melee ones, which most of them are melee. So they're, up close with an enemy. Not necessarily the same one you want to be up close with. And then outside of combat, it's the same button as it used to pick up items. So you'll finish a fight, and you'll go around picking up all the different monster parts stuff, and you'll be accidentally activating their abilities all the time. And some of them will blow away the items you're trying to pick up. And it's really fucking annoying. It's honestly... It's a thing that I can't believe they let slide in this game because, you get the wheel for how you pick Ultra Hand and Fuse and everything like that. If these abilities were just on the wheel, fucking problem solved. Like, that's how you do it. It's really baffling to me they let this go. And I think it's, the further in the game you get, the more of a big deal it becomes. Because, you get more people alongside. And trying to pick out, when you're walking up to them, and they're usually standing right next to each other. So trying to get, hey, I want to talk to this guy and not this guy next to him, but they're right next to each other. Ugh, I hate that shit so much.
Yeah.
I even made like a little mock-up that I posted on the Zelda subreddit about showing how I would like to work on a wheel because I got so mad at it. And also, yes, as you get more companions, the performance does start to suffer. That's good and bad. I do love having the companions, and I would love having their abilities if you could activate them in a better manner.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's my biggest thing about this game that makes me want to tear my hair out. Everything other than those abilities, I fucking love. Like, honestly, that's the only real flaw that I have to complain about.
But Eric, they reused all the assets. They reused everything.
Oh, fucking good. Reuse them again, because they're awesome. I hope
it's the same game.
Fucking, I do hope.
Stupid.
I can't remember if we talked about this last episode or not, but I was thinking that I hope they kind of reuse for the Switch launch. I hope they put together a separate game that reuses most of Tears of the Kingdom to make, like, you remember Ghost of Tsushima Legends, the 4-player mode?
Yeah.
I would love for them to do that within Tears of the Kingdom. Doesn't have to be in the open world. You don't have to go big. Just make some, like,
It could be like a little like Four Swords thing.
Yeah.
Really.
Yes, exactly. They could even call it, Four Swords 2024. I mean, well, they wouldn't call it that, but whatever.
Four Sword Simulator.
Yeah, something. So reuse those assets. They're good assets.
Yeah.
This also makes me think about the next Smash Brothers. Kind of in this most recent one, in Ultimate, we saw in the first teaser that Link had the Breath of the Wild cloak, and we thought, oh, they might redo his whole moveset, which they didn't. But they really gotta do it for the next one to use to make.
Now it's like you gotta. There's so much shit.
Give him all these fusion weapons, and I want him to use the goofiest shit.
Big hammer boulder.
Yeah. So I wrote down, and I asked you to write down some of your best moments in the game. One of mine was that Bokoblins and Constructors fight where I burned down the wall between them and then let them go to town. It was awesome. The other thing I had, there's some collectibles in the Sky Islands. And at one point I landed on one of these islands that I saw the collectible was on, and it fell. The whole island fell with the collectible too, so I couldn't bail. I had to ride it all the way down. And then I noticed when it was falling, they positioned it right over a chasm. So I was falling from the sky through Hyrule all the way down into the depths, and I couldn't grab this collectible until we hit. So I had to ride this whole thing down the whole time. And just coincidentally, it happened to be at the same time that the fire dragon was going down into the chasm too. So I'm riding this damn thing, and then I look over to my right, and the fire dragon is next to me, scaring the shit out of me. And then I thought, hey, before we hit the ground, because that's a long drop to go from the sky through Hyrule down to the chasm. Can I shoot a scale off this fire dragon without stopping and staying on this thing? And I managed to do it, and it was that was one of my coolest moments in this game. How about you?
For me, it's building stuff with the Koroks. So I figured out pretty early on that the game does not care how you get the Koroks across to the place they need to go. So I was trying things like trying to build gliders and
yeah.
So I got to a point where I could build a rocket, and I was like, oh, okay. So I'm gonna go back and find a Korok and see if I can get it to land on top of the camp of his friend. So I did that, and it made it across the way, but it shot straight past the camp and into a rock wall, and I had to build a boat to go get him.
Jesus, those Koroks are the first couple you see are fairly basic, but they can get to point where you got to get them up cliffs, and you got to get them over water and all this crazy shit.
I do appreciate how they changed it up, where it feels like it's more like an interesting puzzle now to do all the Korok seeds.
Absolutely. Yeah, they do that with the Koroks, and they do that with the Hudson signs.
It's awesome.
And even just the shrines themselves. I don't know how they're not out of ideas.
Yeah, it's been very good.
I guess that's about it. I'm at the point now at the game. I've received what I assume is the final mission. The mission says, hey, destroy Ganondorf. So I assume that's the final one. I'm not jumping on that necessarily yet, because there's a lot of other side stuff I want to clean up, a lot of other missions I want to do first. But I think I can now go fight Ganondorf if I want to, and when I'm ready to. I don't want to get more hearts, too, before I go do it. Oh, you know what? It does seem like the enemies hit a lot harder in this one than they do in Breath of the Wild. Have you noticed that? I'm getting every time I actually take a hit, that's half my heart's gone.
Yeah, no, it's something so a lot of the I find Bokoblins and the Guardians are pretty easy. Mm-hmm. But I find especially with geese and stuff like that, the bats, it's been a little bit more difficult, I found.
Yeah.
I have no problems with the Guardians or whatever, but there is
I hated the Guardians.
difficulty jumps. So it's been fun.
Yeah, it does. As you get companions, it does take some aggro away from you. That certainly mitigates things. But yeah, you can't just absorb hits like that. Oh, I did. I forgot to tell you this beforehand, but do you have a favorite weapon fusion yet?
I really like fusing swords together to make bigger swords. It's the best.
Yeah. I've been fairly basic with my stuff. Usually I just put horns on them from the enemies. I'd like to find out some like crazier stuff, but I do. Okay, no, I will say one. The beam emitter, if you put that on a boomerang and throw it, it doesn't do much damage, so it's not really useful, but it's fun as hell. Then you throw the boomerang, and it shoots a laser circling around all the time. It's really neat. But yeah, it doesn't do a ton of damage, but it's just hilarious.
Yeah.
All right, I think we move on from Zelda, right? Any final thoughts on? Like, we're probably gonna talk about this game again, I imagine.
Yeah, definitely. I have really not a whole lot of thoughts, only because I'm not very far in the game, just because I've been working so much. But like, it has been a really good time every time I picked it up.
I love it. I think they outdid Breath of the Wild, which I don't even know how they did. Like, Breath of the Wild was in that GQ list, that controversial GQ list.
Yes.
They named the #1 game of all time, and not that GQ named it. They went to a bunch of people like Jeff Grubb and Hideo. I think Kojima was a contributor to it, and Neil Druckmann. A bunch of people in the games industry and journalists about the games industry and YouTubers and stuff, and just kind of got a consensus poll. And Breath of the Wild won, which, you know, obviously that's kind of just a popularity contest, but it means something.
Hey, people like it. People like that game.
Yeah, absolutely. If somebody told me that Breath of the Wild, you know, before Tears of the Kingdom out, if somebody told me it was the best game of all time, I couldn't argue too hard with them.
Yeah, me neither.
And now I think they've topped it, truly, which is amazing. And everybody, it does really feel like a moment where everybody's playing this thing, especially the first couple days. Man, it was crazy. Like, you saw discussion of all other games just stopped.
Yep, and now it is this game forever.
Yeah, it's all over TikTok. It's everything. It's wow. Like I said, 10 million copies in 3 days. I think Breath of the Wild sold 33 million. Something. It's off the top of my head, so I could be getting that exactly wrong. But like 33 million ever, and it's sold 1/3 of that already. It's nuts.
Very true.
Yeah. Anyway, let's move on to PlayStation. That's going to be, I guess, the topic of the week. Our last episode, we did Xbox and talked about how they were facing a lot of troubles. And now, only a couple weeks later, feels like PlayStation's facing a lot of troubles. Obviously, look, they're not in actual danger, at least not short term or even medium term. They're going to be fine. But it does seem like they got some issues that are starting to mount up. Starting with this PlayStation Showcase, which I think I kind of liked it, and you seem like you liked it a lot, but the kind of overall consensus seemed to be very negative. People seem
I can
pissed.
understand why. I can understand why, but at the same time, I am an old man now, and I'm like, okay, well, I got the things that I wanted out of it, and I don't really see any point in getting mad.
Yeah, I've mentioned this before. I don't get mad about any game showcase. Ultimately, you're seeing new video games, and that's fucking like, what's there to complain about? Oh, I lost an hour of my time, but you know how many hours I've wasted? Fucking, what would I be doing anyway? The anger I don't really get, but I understand people wanted to see more first party games. That's the #1 thing, and people wanted to see they didn't want to see so much CGI. There was a lot of CGI. Not a whole lot of gameplay in this thing.
Yeah, that's true.
And for some people, all the live service games got them mad. Now, I'm not one of those people. I like live service games. I like multiplayer games.
One live service game in particular pissed me off. That's just...
Well, we're going to go down the list because I don't know which one you're talking about, but I guess we'll get to it.
We will. We'll talk about it.
Oh, is it not first party?
It's not first party.
Okay, yeah, then I know which one. Okay. And actually, that's the whole reason I put it on the list, because otherwise probably wouldn't even talk about it. Anyway, but let's get into it. Spider-Man 2 was their closer. It was the most gameplay, and it was the only first-party single-player game. When you talk about like the Sony signature, the Sony bangers and stuff, this was the only one in the showcase. Granted, it's a real big one. Spider-Man's a big deal. Mm-hmm. It's funny. I liked those Spider-Man games, especially the first one. But like we've talked about before when we talked about Ragnarok and everything, I'm just so burnt out on this stuff that like this gameplay, while there's nothing I could point to and say I didn't like this part, I didn't like this part, it just kind of all like it looked good, but safe. Like I'm just like not excited by it anymore.
Here's the thing: you are also somebody who doesn't like this kind of game.
Yeah, but I also love Marvel and love Spider-Man.
That's true.
That kind of balances things out.
But like, from knowing you for like these past couple years, I know that you do not care for this sort of like cinematic experience.
You're right, so, and it's getting worse over time. I used to love these games, and it's not that they can never grab me, because like I said, I did like the first Spider-Man, but it just over time I feel it just feels like the tricks are not even the tricks, but just I feel like I'm seeing the machinery behind it more and more, and I don't know if that's fair or not. Maybe I'm being unfair, but I'm just I don't know.
Yeah, it's very much like I think it's a taste thing, to be honest with you.
You're probably right.
Me, I love this shit. I'm gonna play it. So it's what I wanted to see, and I got it. So
I'm probably still gonna play it. Probably.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, I love Marvel, and maybe when it comes around, I'll get more excited. I wasn't feeling excited for Tears of the Kingdom that bad until like I think it was the 10-minute gameplay demonstration they did where they showed off Ultra Hand and Fusion for the first time. So, hey, maybe Spider-Man will wow me at some point. But right now it feels like the different things about it are the symbiote abilities from Peter, and of course the ability to switch between back and forth. Which I don't know if we can do that at will, or if there's story moments where it's going to switch for us. Or maybe it's, hey, in the campaign missions they're going to switch for us, but when we're in the open world fucking around we can switch at will. I don't know.
It seems like there's a lot of difference between how they traverse the world, too. Mm-hmm. Like, because they gave Miles the glider suit, and Peter's probably going to have a bunch of, like, symbiote stuff.
Right.
To me, it would make more sense to have you can switch at any time, but
sure,
we'll see.
Yeah, it would be tough. I mean, if it's truly any time, it'd be tough to make campaign missions around that. But yeah, I would definitely hope in the open world. Although, I think everybody can tell right away, we're going to get to a point where Peter, the symbiote suit is, what's the word? Corrupting Peter so much that you're going to have to fight him as Miles. I mean,
yeah.
We all know that's going to happen, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so maybe they'll take Peter off the board at that point. I mean, who knows what'll happen, but... Yeah, so like I said, I'm still gonna play it. And it is impressive. I'm not trying to say that it's not.
Oh yeah. It's a good looking video game. It's just like I understand people's like I'm tired of this kind of game because it's like they have made the same game so many times.
Yes, and it's reductive to say that hey, Spider-Man and God of War and Horizon are all the same game with a different skin. That's not true, but there's definitely a similar feeling to all of them.
There's a common thread between all of them.
Yeah. There was one other thing I wanted to mention about Spider-Man, and I forgot what it was. Oh well, we'll move on then. Metal Gear Solid Triangle?
Delta. It is Delta. I figured that out. But okay, I have to talk about this because it kind of pissed me off. Kotaku was reporting that it was Triangle, like straight up, just calling it Triangle in articles.
You can see, because I did a live reaction to this show, and then I put a TikTok of this clip of me saying, I don't know how to type triangle. Konami.
Yeah. So, I have a little bit to say about this.
Okay.
In that I am on record on this podcast and saying I'm a Kojima fan. At first, I was kind of having hesitancy about this game. I was like, I don't know. It's not.
You don't trust Konami? I don't blame you.
I don't trust Konami, but like there is a sick part of me that's been growing where it's like, what is a Metal Gear game without Kojima?
Sure.
And I'm like, I want to see what that is. So I'm probably still gonna play this just to see it.
Yeah, I don't think there's any harm in being excited about this, especially. I think if it were an original Metal Gear game without Kojima, then maybe like you could hit the panic button. But hey, yes, this doesn't have Kojima, but it's also a remake. Like
it is.
So they could just if they're just sticking to it, then I don't think they're gonna fuck it up too bad. Then again, we also don't know who the developer is officially.
I think it's virtuous.
I think so too. Yeah,
I think that's most likely what's going on.
I 100% agree, but they didn't say it. So there's a lot of I watched the IGN Game Scoop talking about this, and they never even mentioned virtuous. They had no idea. They were all dumbstruck, and I feel I've seen some people mention they think it's Blue Point, which I don't think it's Blue Point at all. But
it's not Blue Point. There's no way.
Yeah, but the fact that they're not saying it leads to this speculation, and I think now if they come out and say it's virtuous, there's going to be a lot of people who are like, I don't know who that is, and that sucks. Which is not really fair, but hey, that's kind of the way it goes.
For sure.
I never played Snake Eater. The only Metal Gear I got into was 5, which I did love. So I don't know. We'll see. This one was rumored to be timed exclusive to PlayStation, and that turned out to be not true. It is on PC and Xbox on same day. There's also, I didn't write it down, but the collection is coming back, or a slightly different collection, I guess.
Yeah, so it's called the Master Collection, and it's titled Volume 1, so everyone's assuming that's going to be like Metal Gear Solid 4 and 5 in the next one.
Sure. Although I did see just earlier today, Jez Corden tweeted out that he heard that 4 is never going to happen because the cell architecture makes it too hard or some shit.
Well, they're a bunch of nerds, so they should do that.
Yeah. Yeah, even as somebody who doesn't really care as much for the series, they should absolutely do that. It's a shame to have a game that people love so much trapped on the PS3.
Yeah, a system that sucks.
Boy, I don't know if there's any first-party controller in history I hate as much as the PS3 controller.
It's awful. It's really bad.
Yeah, I can't stand that thing. Alan Wake 2. You an Alan Wake guy?
I played the first one. I liked it well enough. It's a good game.
I never played it because I'm not into horror, but people sure do love that thing.
They do.
And now this, almost, I don't know how many years, but it feels like 10 years since the last game. The only game. Well, I guess there was American Nightmare, but, the only big game. I'm kind of surprised to see it coming back because it does feel like, I don't know, it has a cult fan base, a rabid cult fan base, but it does feel like Remedy has moved on to bigger things, but I guess they disagree. And that's good. I'm not complaining about that. That's a good thing. That's coming out sooner than I thought it would be. That's October, I believe.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah. Dragon's Dogma 2, we still don't know when that's coming out, but they did show gameplay for the first time.
It's insane that there's in-engine footage of that game to me.
Yeah.
That's nuts. I can't wait for that game.
That is the guy that did Devil May Cry 5, right?
Yes, this is his other side project that he worked on.
Well, I guess
finally getting a sequel.
I guess it's been quite a long time since DMC 5 now, so maybe it's further. I didn't imagine it was far along, but I guess now in retrospect it makes sense that it is further along than I thought.
Well, he's also working on Final Fantasy 16, so he's kind of pulling double duty here.
So does he work for Capcom or Square?
So no, Square hired him to do the combat for FF16.
Okay, so how's he doing this Capcom game?
I don't know.
All right,
he's that good.
Yeah, that's crazy. Good for him, I guess.
Yeah, pretty crazy.
Yeah.
He's having a good year.
So is Capcom. Well, Capcom's having a good couple of years. Boy, people loved RE4. You loved RE4. They got this. Although this won't come out this year, but still, that was a big reveal. They got Exo Primal, which I think might surprise people. I enjoyed the beta.
I think so too, honestly. I think that game will do well.
Especially because it's going to be Game Pass day one. So
yeah, people will play it.
I'm going to play it and I think they've said they're going to. I did not like how every match ended in a PvP segment, which I did not enjoy.
Wait, does it really?
Yeah. But, it did in the beta when I played. Now, I think they said after the beta that one of the biggest pieces of feedback they got is a lot of people, including me, want modes that are just PvE, and I think they said they're going to do that.
Good.
So because I really liked fighting dinosaurs in that game. I did not like fighting other players.
It is pretty sick to see a bunch of velociraptors fall out of the sky, and you got to kill them.
It was that was a real good time. Foam Stars, the highlight of the show.
I fucking hate this game so much. I haven't even play it. I fucking hate this.
I thought it was cool.
No, it's not. It's so stupid. It looks like Square Enix bought a bunch of like anime characters off the Epic Games Store and put them in a Splatoon clone and be like, oh, people will play this.
Boy, it is. When you call it a Splatoon clone, you are underselling it. It is fucking like
it's just Splatoon.
Directly Splatoon. It's just crazy
Splatoon.
how Splatoon it is. But hey, Splatoon's only on one console, and it's not PlayStation. And
that's true.
I guess Foam Stars has only been announced for PlayStation, not even PC, which is surprising to me.
That's really weird.
It'll probably happen, but so far, no announcement.
Yeah, Balan Wonderworld 2, everyone.
Yeah. Do you think there's going to be NFTs in this game?
Yes.
Do you actually think that, or are you just mad at the game?
I really believe there will be, actually.
I could see it. I hope not. I feel like they didn't mention it, so I would hope they wouldn't just like surprise us later.
I'm surprised there are not FF16 NFTs yet.
Yeah, that's true, actually. That's a good point. I didn't even think about that. Yeah, or they just announced today or yesterday a new Dragon Quest spin-off of some kind, too. I don't know what the deal is there. But yeah, that is actually a good point. I'm surprised they're not putting them in their kind of mainline franchises. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not down on this game necessarily. It is 100% just a Splatoon ripoff, though. You are not kidding around.
Absolutely.
But I'm okay with that. Maybe. I don't like Splatoon as much as I would like to like Splatoon, because everything about the style of Splatoon and the music especially, I fucking love. It's just playing it doesn't. I don't know. I never got good at being able to go from swimming in the ink to popping out and shooting people. That whole flow, I never got good at it.
Yeah, I'm terrible at it too.
Yeah. Phantom Blade Zero was an interesting game that looked very impressive. It was one of the highlights of the show. But then we kind of found out afterwards that this is a developer that's really only done mobile games. And this is actually a prequel to a mobile game that they have going in China. So that, can give you some pause. And this is a very, very, very much
looks
from
cool
Soft.
as hell, though.
It does look cool. But this is very much looks like a FromSoft wannabe game in the same way Lies of P and stuff like that.
The action, though, actually looks awesome. Like, straight up. Like, they're killing it on that front. Like, it does look cool.
It does. And if we didn't know that it was a mobile developer, I'd say, like, I wouldn't have any concerns. I'd just say, fucking, hey, this game looks awesome, put it on your list. And now I'm like, maybe put it on your list, but keep a skeptical eye.
Be cautious.
Yeah. Hey, I'm hoping for the best on that.
Absolutely, me too.
I would love to see a studio be able to step up their game in that way. But we'll see. Then there was... So I kind of put all the live service games here together. And maybe that's not being totally fair, but there's a talking point here about how Sony's doing... Not even necessarily transitioning, because they're still going to make a lot of single-player games, but they are definitely trying to diversify into live service.
They're trying to, get a lot out there,
Yeah. Which I know a lot of people are freaking out about, and we should probably have that discussion. But I'm, I like, especially, as we just talked about, to my taste, I'm like happy to see them spread their wings in this direction a little bit more.
I think it's a good idea, honestly. Like, it's not.
Yeah.
I don't see anything evil about it being like, hey, we want to try and get into this market too. I mean, like, they're a company. They're going to try and make as much money as possible.
The argument I've seen against it, which I think is dumb, but what I've seen is, hey, if they could put all these people on single player games. Like, well, that's not smart.
It's not. But there's people who don't want to play single player games. This whole podcast is predicated on you not wanting to. You know what I mean?
I mean, that's a little extreme, but yeah.
No, but you know what I mean? You would prefer that multiplayer, like...
Co-op, especially.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like, there are people who like that. And it's like...
Absolutely. They're not doing it because live service games are unpopular.
It's true. They're not.
But all that being said, after defending them on this a bit, all these trailers were CG trailers. That's not great. And also, they just didn't tell us much. We learned more from the PlayStation blog, but I'll tell you this right now. I can't tell you much of the difference between Concord and Fair Games. Can you? We know Fair Games is kind of a heist game. That's about it. That's all I can tell you.
Yeah, it's just like, And you also don't know what the game really is, too.
Right.
Is the other thing.
Yeah. So the 4 that I kind of wrote down here, and one of them's a little questionable, but Marathon, which is from Bungie, and it's a return. If you don't know, Marathon is a series they made before Halo, back on the Mac. They made 3 games of that. They're bringing it back, but it's now, it used to be a very campaign-focused game. Now it's an extraction shooter, same way Tarkov is. And extraction shooters, boy, they're hot right now. That's like the new Battle Royale. Everybody seems to be bringing one of those out. They also revealed Fair Games, which is from Haven Studios. That's Jade Raymond's studio. It's going to be her first game in, 15 years or so. Yeah. And that's the one they call a heist game. It's, kind of a cyber, but it's kind of a Watch Dogs 2 setting, feels like. But it did show... It looked like Payday, but maybe with a 3v3 component on there as well. Concord is from either Firewalk or Fire Sprite. I always get those two mixed up. There was nothing in that trailer that told us anything, but I think kind of in the PlayStation blog afterwards, they just said it's a PvP game. And then Helldivers 2, which we don't technically know if it's live service. The first Helldivers was not, so maybe this one won't be either, but I wouldn't be shocked if it is. In the same way, I had an example and now I lost it, but like Diablo, it was a multiplayer series before, but now with Diablo 4, they're definitely going live service. With Helldivers 2, I wouldn't be surprised if they do, but we don't know.
I wouldn't either.
Yeah. So at least 3 live service, possibly 4, and like I said, I don't have an issue with that. I just feel like, especially with Concord and Fair Games, they didn't do a great job of telling me what the difference is between those two right now.
Yeah, for sure.
And the most important news from the whole showcase, Cade 6 is back, motherfuckers.
Nathan Fillion getting more work somehow. Lord knows he needs it, despite being in the biggest movie of the summer so far.
Yes. I like Cade. I know. And the other thing that's kind of a sad fact of this is obviously I don't know how much they recorded with Lance. What's his last name?
Lance Reddick.
Yes, I'm sorry. Yeah, I don't know how much they recorded with Lance Reddick before he passed away. So they might be losing Zavala at some point. So they do need another big character to kind of be in that position. Now, I don't think that's why this happened. I'm sure they planned this way before Lance Reddick's passing.
That character is so popular. It's kind of crazy that it took this long.
Yeah, it's been 5 years. And I think it was Jeff Gershman said, hey, I expected Cade 6 to be gone for about 6 months. And I kind of did too. And we don't know. He does, in this trailer, he has some, ethereal... He has, weird kind of things coming out of his eyes. We don't know if he's actually alive, or if it's, some kind of weird spirit, light thing.
Your guardian is also not technically alive, either.
Right, so, sure. Yeah. I don't know. There's a lot of unanswered questions there, and their showcase is coming... Not for a few months, not till August. So we're going to have to not have answers about that for a while. But, hey, K6 is back, motherfuckers. It's going to be cool to see him meet Crow, who, killed him.
For sure.
I'm very excited about that. I have, because of Zelda, I've fallen behind on Destiny, and now Diablo's coming this weekend, so it's going to be a bit before I come back. But they just launched their new season, which I am going to have to catch up on. So the biggest complaint about the showcase, I think, was first party. And the first party they did show was all multiplayer games except for Spider-Man. And people don't seem happy about that. And people, a lot of kind of insiders and journalists were surprised. People, have come out now. I think Tom Henderson said, hey, I saw some trailers that were not in the showcase that I don't know why they weren't.
Yeah.
So that, do you think they're going to, the last showcase they did, I guess, was 2 years ago, and that year they did do 2 in 1 year. Do you think they might have another one late this year, or are they just? So, what do you think's going on?
This is just me noticing things. A little bit ago, Jeff Keighley put out this graphic that had these are the companies working with us for Summer Games Fest. One of the logos was Sony.
Yes.
So I don't know if they're going to be there, but they could have a little something there.
Yeah, I actually, I expected 3 things from them at Summer Game Fest. Death Stranding, because duh.
Yeah.
I expect a PC port announcement of either Ghost of Tsushima or Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart or Demon's Souls. One of those 3 will get a PC. And the other thing I did expect until yesterday was The Last of Us multiplayer thing, which we'll talk about that in a second. Because there's some stuff going on with that, too. But yeah, so is that along the lines of what you're thinking?
Yeah, like, kind of similar. Like, clearly that's what they have in the works,
Sure.
Unless there's stuff we don't know about, you know?
But see, that's the thing. There's got to be. Like, it does feel like there's some... It's about time to talk about Ghost of Tsushima 2, right? And
I'm sure it is, but I don't know if they have anything to show other than, hey, we've had conversations about Ghost of Tsushima 2, you know?
I don't know. Like, when was that game?
That was like end of 2019, I think.
Oh god, I thought it was further back than that. But you might be right. Oh, actually, I guess 2019 is a long time ago now.
It is a long time.
Oh
ago.
Shit, that was 2020.
Was it really?
Okay, yeah, okay. I guess that's more recent than I thought it was. Okay, so yeah, you might be right. They might not be as far along on that as I was assuming.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was 2018 or 2019.
Yeah, I thought it was the end of 2019. To be honest with you, but
yeah. Still though, I'm just like, even if it was just a CG trailer or a logo, it does feel like they had to look at the showcase lineup and have to know, like, hey, our fan base, still a lot of them want these single player bangers. We gotta throw them a little bit more of a bone here. Because Spider-Man 2, we knew about. Like, there was no reveals of any of them.
Yeah.
But they didn't do it. And I do think I'm not ready to throw money down on it or anything, but I do think there's a possibility that in November, October, they do another showcase.
Yeah.
Also, another thing they didn't show was Twisted Metal. Which maybe, like, that changed hands from Lucid to Fire Sprite not too long ago. Yeah. But the show's coming this year, so you'd think they'd want to time that out.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, they could have another Sony Direct, whatever they call it, State of Play.
State of Play.
Yeah.
That's a fair point, actually. Yeah, it doesn't necessarily have to be a showcase. They could do a State of Play. That's a good point. Mm-hmm. But the Last of Us multiplayer thing, let's talk about this. That was the biggest shocker that it was not in the showcase. And then yesterday, we got the bomb dropped on us. First with a tweet from Naughty Dog, basically saying, hey, it's being delayed. We're like, oh, okay, that's a little surprising, but all right, whatever, it happens. And then about an hour later, Jason Schreier drops an article, which now, like, oh, that's why they tweeted it. Well, that's why Naughty Dog tweeted it, because they knew this Schreier article was coming. Where essentially it is in real jeopardy. They have scaled back the team a lot, it sounds like, doing it.
Yeah.
And they're rethinking how the whole thing's going to work. And apparently it's Bungie's fault.
Oh, God.
Sort of. Bungie is apparently, and this is one of the reasons Sony bought them, going through all the live service games that Sony's working on. And what I thought was, hey, they're giving advice and giving help. But apparently they're killing some of these projects. I mean, they don't have the authority to actually axe them, but they can go to Sony and be like, this isn't going to work. And apparently that happened with the Last of Us multiplayer. It also happened with Deviation Games' project. Yeah. Which is a studio Sony doesn't own, but they were doing this game with them. I think that's ex-Call of Duty developers at that studio. And apparently that thing's been either killed or completely stripped back or something. I know they had a lot of layoffs after this. And yeah, and Bungie's apparently going through, like, the French Revolution, going through these studios and putting some of these games in the guillotine.
Yep.
Yeah, what do you make of all this? Especially the Last of Us stuff.
I don't know. I look at that game and I'm like, yeah, that multiplayer was really good. I enjoyed playing it, but I'm like, is Naughty Dog capable of delivering a standalone multiplayer experience? And I think about that, I'm like, I don't know. I really don't.
It depends how they wanted to scale it, I think, right? Like, I kind of feel like, it seemed like, we don't know, but I'm just making some assumptions here, that it got so big that it was supposed to be almost like the Division in the Last of Us world. And yeah, I don't know if Naughty Dog can do that.
I don't know. I don't think they can.
While also doing their other single player projects, because they've got at least one more, maybe two more in the works.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of what Bungie said. And apparently, the Bungie thing said they were not confident about how they could keep players engaged long term. It wasn't necessarily that, hey, this game plays bad. It was just like, I don't know about their roadmap. And, that's the kind of thing that killed Halo Infinite, right? It's not that Halo Infinite doesn't play bad. It was just the roadmap. And I guess they didn't want to repeat that, which is good. But also, hey, the fact that right now, I think there's a very, very real chance this never comes out. And that's a shame.
For sure.
Yeah. I never got into Last of Us multiplayer, but I know a lot of people who did. So, yeah, you look at this Last of Us situation. You look at Deviation Games getting canceled. Excuse me, their game getting canceled. Pixel Opus closed a couple weeks ago. Dreams has been end of support, I guess would be the best way to put it. Now it's going back, I think, to last year. They closed Japan Studios. There's been a lot of concern about Xbox's first party. And, like, especially in comparison to, like, oh, well, Sony's rock solid. Like, maybe Sony's... Like I said, they're not in real trouble, but, like, are things a little bit shakier there than maybe we all realized?
I don't know if I agree that it's shaky. I kind of agree more that they're just playing their cards too close to their chest, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I look at it and I'm like, okay, they have Spider-Man. They have the other games Insomniac's working on. They just finished God of War Ragnarok. That's all done.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, it even feels weird to even suggest it because, yeah, their output's been good. It's not like they're unlike Xbox, it's not like they're not putting out games or not putting out great games.
I think what it is games are just too expensive. They take too long to make, and we're just going to see shorter, not less of them, but more like it's going to be more spaced out.
Yes. Yeah, and actually that is a larger point that maybe at some point we need to get into is like, hey, maybe this isn't a problem that, maybe it's not that Xbox is bad as management. Maybe it's not that Sony's bad as management. Maybe this whole fucking industry is a house of cards right now, at least on the AAA side.
Yeah.
And things are about to come crashing down. I get worried about that sometimes.
I honestly just think AAA games are going to be fewer than they have been the past couple of years.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, like, it's going to slow down considerably.
Yeah. We've let budgets, and I say we, not, whatever. The industry's let budgets get completely
They ballooned
out of control.
A lot.
It's real bad right now. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff to be worried about. Great. Awesome.
It isn't there.
Yeah, you're not kidding. All right, let's hit some news. Those were the Zelda and the PlayStation situation were the biggest things, but we got some other news here. There's not going to be a new Nintendo console until at least spring, according to a source that Nikkei has, which is a Japanese newspaper. Not a huge surprise, I think. I think there was maybe a very outside chance that one could have come out late this year, but probably not, realistically, and now we know for sure it's not. So, yeah, I could see it in... And honestly... Probably the smart money would be on holiday next year, but it's possible that it's a March or April.
Yeah.
For the Switch 2. Is there anything you'd really like to see from the Switch 2, or is it just more powerful Switch?
Just more powerful Switch. Just that and more Nintendo games. That's all I care about, really.
Yeah, I'd like to see them add GameCube to their online service. That's about it.
I would love
and DS, actually. DS would be great. They had it on Wii U, which is weird. But anyway. The EU, the European Union, has approved Microsoft's purchase of Activision Blizzard King. Let's move on.
All right.
Overwatch 2. There was a big kerfuffle about this, and this is upsetting to me. I might actually talk about this for a minute. So, kind of a lot of the headlines say their PvE has been scrapped. That's not entirely true. They had revealed back 2019 or whatever the hell that was.
I remember them talking about when Overwatch 2 was announced.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about. I don't remember if that was 2019 or 2020 or whatever it was, a couple years ago.
Whatever scandal they had to announce Overwatch 2 to distract us, yeah.
Yeah, at that time, I think it was the Korea thing.
It was the Hong Kong protests.
Yeah, that's wow. Just too many scandals to remember at that company. They had announced 2 PvE modes, a campaign and a hero mode. Now, the campaign's still happening, sort of. It is still happening, at least as far as it's on their roadmap. And it actually sounds like it's only 2 seasons away, so we should be getting that fairly soon. Or at least it's starting. They're going to roll it out, season by season, add to it. The hero mode, however, was the thing I was most excited for. And I think most people were most excited for. And that's scrapped. Yeah. And I am fucking very unhappy about this. This was probably the thing this year I was most looking forward to. It was that and Redfall, and boy, I'm 0 for 2. This was, it seemed like a spiritual successor to Mass Effect 3's multiplayer mode, because it was sort of a horde mode, 4 players with RPG elements. You had full skill trees where you could really change up your character's abilities, and very repeatable because there'd be a lot of randomized elements as far as every couple ways you'd get a random objective, different enemy groups, different maps. It was supposed to be as repeatable as the PvP modes are in that game, and all that's just gone now. They're still gonna do the campaign missions, but I'm not super excited for those. Like, I'll play them and everything, but they seem like something you'll play one time and that's it. Very linear, very just, hey, point A to point B, and I'm sure there'll be great set pieces, but that's not what I was really gonna sink my teeth into. And I'm unhappy about this.
It sucks. It really does. It really sucks.
It just seems like they don't have enough people to do it, because they're apparently bleeding staff members there because now...
I wonder why.
Yeah, well, there's many reasons why. Obviously, because it's Blizzard, and we all know the Blizzard problems. But also, they ended work from home recently. And a lot of people are just like, fuck you, I'm out. And I don't blame them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't blame them.
It's a stupid-ass thing.
Working for Activision.
Right. And that's just another reason why I really hope that Microsoft can acquire them, because they're okay with work from home. At least I don't know if that's 100%. I don't know if that's true I don't know if it's a studio by studio call, but I do know there's a lot of Xbox studios that work from home.
Hey, if you can do it from home, do it from home.
Yeah. And we've seen that you can. I think the last 2 Destiny expansions have been entirely made from home now. And a lot of other.
I think they said that Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart was made from home with no crunch.
That's insane.
Yeah, and that game's amazing. So it's like, damn.
Yeah. That is one of and that's one of the Sony games that does not fit that formula that drives me crazy. I love Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart.
So
I loved the Ratchet & Clank on PS4. A lot of people that game seemed to be divisive, but I really like it.
It's weird that people don't like that game, because I have very fond memories of it.
That's one of my favorite PS4 games. Anyway, so this Overwatch 2 news is a bummer. And then another bummer for Eric-type games. Arc Raiders was the first game from Embark Studios. Well, actually, it was going to be the first game from Embark Studios. Then they kind of pushed up the finals ahead of it. So now they're going to put out the finals first, which is a PvP game. And Arc Raiders is supposed to be a PvE, almost Destiny-like, but I don't think it was that live service necessarily, but in a similar vein. They've basically completely rebooted it, and now that's going to be an extraction shooter. Now,
yay!
I know, and I don't mean, look, extraction shooters are not a genre I care about, but I don't mean to just trash on it because it's not my genre. But it does feel like, boy, there's a lot of extraction shooters all of a sudden. It's like in the last 2 weeks, it feels like we've gotten 4 of them revealed. It's crazy. Yeah, so that's a game that I don't know. It's probably smart for them in long-term business-wise, just not for my taste. Amazon, with the team that made New World, is making a Lord of the Rings MMO. You might be confused by that because you might be saying, isn't there already a Lord of the Rings MMO? The answer is yes.
Yes, there is.
Now there's going to be 2, I guess?
The more the merrier, I guess. Whatever.
Yeah. Or the old one gets shut down before this one comes out is also a possibility. But I don't know. Pac-Man 99 shutting down. In a couple months. I know.
That's
a couple months. They turned off servers. I guess, it didn't take off the same way Tetris 99 did. Mortal Kombat 1 got revealed.
Yeah.
Not in the 90s. I mean, now it got revealed.
Yeah. I'm gonna reveal something about myself here that might get me some hate.
Oh no.
I don't like Mortal Kombat very much, if I'm being honest.
I thought you did.
I don't care for it. I like Injustice a whole lot, but I don't. Mortal Kombat. Okay, here's my thing with Mortal Kombat. Okay. These games are stiff as hell. It's just not fun to play. The most interesting part to me is always the DLC fighters. That's always the most fun I've had with these games. And also, people like the lore. I find it just kind of silly and just not fun, to be honest with you.
It is silly, but I think it's fun because it's silly.
Yeah, no, and there's merit to it. It's just something I don't care about the gore. I just I don't get a whole lot out of it.
You know, it's kind of funny is I really do like Mortal Kombat, but I'm not a fighting game connoisseur, so for me the stiffness of it, I can't even tell. Honestly, I don't know. Yeah. I'm just not good at this shit. But what was I going to say? Oh, it's funny. The gore, there's no in this trailer for the first half. There's no fatalities. There's no violence, and then they kick it in about halfway through. They do a montage of fatalities. And it's almost like, oh yeah, I forgot this series does that. Because fatalities to me are not I don't care about them anymore. Okay, maybe you can watch them once and just kind of go, ugh, whatever. But that's not what I'm there for. I just like the story. It is stupid. It's absolutely stupid.
It's very stupid. I don't know.
Boy. Are they bringing back Ronda Rousey?
I hope not.
Boy, she fucking... I remember when they revealed that.
That was so depressing.
People were pissed off immediately, and I was on the side of, okay, she won't be good, but I'm sure it'll be fine. I was wrong. She was terrible.
She was not good in that game. No, I don't understand why they did that. I still don't get it.
You know why they did it, because it's attention, right?
Fair.
It's a stunt thing, but boy, I thought she might just be passable or something, like Chris Pratt and Mario. Okay, whatever. It's not gonna be good, but whatever. Boy, it was not whatever. It was terrible.
It's really bad. I heard something like Snoop Dogg might be in this Mortal Kombat game.
Oh, I hadn't heard that. I had heard, but the source on this is an asshole whose name I don't even want to mention, that Megan Fox might have a Melina
I saw that too, and I was like, please, don't do that.
And somebody else, I can't remember, somebody I'd never heard of. But yeah. TTK Games is a brand new studio started by ex-Battlefield devs. Not a whole lot to say there, except that we get this kind of headline every couple weeks now, it seems, of, hey, ex-Battlefield devs, ex-CD Projekt Red devs, ex-Blizzard devs, starting a brand new studio, which I think is an awesome trend. Just proves there's still money in games. And this is why I don't get worried about, when there are big purchases, people start to freak out about consolidation. I say for every studio that gets bought up, or even publisher that gets bought up, there seems to be a new one popping up. Now, we don't think about them because they haven't released anything yet. There's nobody out here who can say, I love TTK Games, because they haven't released a game yet. But they will at some point, and, it might be awesome, might not be, but there's so many new studios out there that have not released a game yet that, some of them are going to be great, and they will be the next Blizzard, or the next, what's the word? Bethesda.
I think people forget that the AAA space is actually very tiny in comparison to everything else.
Sure.
There's so many studios forming every day. It's getting harder and harder to monopolize for them, I bet.
Yeah, and that's a good thing. I'm happy about it. Destiny 2 has added fishing. Now it's a real MMO.
It is. It's an actual MMO now because it's got a fishing minigame.
I haven't even played it yet, but I'm excited to get in there. And the final thing. Will Ferrell is apparently in talks to play John Madden in a film directed by David O. Russell.
This is already amazing. I really want this.
And this game is specifically about the Madden video game franchise. It's not like a biopic of John Madden's whole life. And I imagine that John Madden himself won't even be in the movie that much. It's probably going to be I haven't seen Air, but I think Michael Jordan's not even in that movie at all.
He's not. He's not in the movie. And that was apparently Ben Affleck's choice, which is weird.
And I imagine that John Madden will only be in this movie for a little bit. Because, it's not like John Madden was coding the game.
Yeah.
He did actually have. It's funny. A couple of years ago, I listened to a documentary or a podcast documentary about the early days of Madden, and apparently, John Madden himself was instrumental in making sure the game was 11 on 11, because every football game before that they couldn't do it. It's too many players back in those days. And he was like, I'm not going to put my name on it unless you make this 11 on 11. And the developers were like, I don't think we can do this, man. Can we compromise? He's like, no, 11 on 11 or take your name off.
He was right, though, honestly.
Yeah.
Like
that's why the series took off the way it did.
Yeah, because he had the foresight to be like, this has to be a good game.
Yeah. Yep. So I'm excited for that. I didn't realize. So I liked a lot of early David O. Russell movies. And I haven't actually seen much of his recent stuff, honestly. Like I was trying, and I don't know why. Like I've kind of just stopped watching movies, which is not a good thing, but it's kind of the way it's gone. But apparently a lot of people don't like him anymore, and I don't know entirely why. Maybe
he, if I remember correctly, I'm sure the Phantom Zone guys have talked about this, and it's already got over my head. If I remember correctly, he kind of said some stuff that might be considered a little, I don't want to say too real, but like unpopular.
Oh, I don't know anything about it.
No, I remember now. So he is incredibly abusive. That's what I remember. So that sucks.
Damn it. Hate when that happens. Every fucking time, every person
everyone gets milkshake ducked. I hate it.
Yeah, I was such a big fan of Louis C.K. and
then he had to do what he did for some reason.
Ugh.
Though, to be fair, it is worth mentioning Louis C.K. is still doing shows and headlining things, and it's like there's no such thing as cancel culture. He's still working.
Yeah, I know, but that doesn't mean
you shouldn't.
I'm not watching him as much.
You shouldn't feel comfortable watching him. It's just like, it is funny how it's like, people are like, oh, he's canceled. Like, no, he's still working. Like, and he's doing fairly well.
Yeah. God damn. Well, that's a hell of a note to end the podcast on.
Yeah. So, yeah, David O. Russell, terrible, horrible monster that we should all fight.
Yeah. Well, I guess I'm not excited about this movie anymore.
I'm going to pirate it.
Yeah, I probably will too.
Purchase it legally.
Anyway, anything else you wanted to talk about?
Nah.
I know the answer is no because I asked you before we start airing, so I don't know why I'm asking you.
Yeah, I got nothing, to be honest with you.
All right. Diablo and Street Fighter are this coming weekend, right?
Yes, it is.
Well, Diablo's on the 1st if you buy the expensive edition. If you don't, then it's on the 6th. But I went ahead and bought the expensive edition, so I'm playing it on the 1st.
Hell yeah.
And then, do you plan on getting both or either one of those?
I can't really get either of them right now. But if I was, I'd be getting Street Fighter, to be honest with you. I'm not really trying to buy any games before Final Fantasy 16 comes out, because I just need to clear out what I'm doing.
If Diablo wasn't coming out, I'd be getting Street Fighter. Because like I said, I'm not good at fighting games, but if they got a fun story, and this one seems like it's going to be a fun story.
You can hang out with Chun-Li and get her phone number, so your dreams can come true.
So I'll probably put it on my Xbox wish list and get it when it's on sale, because it does look cool.
Yeah.
But Diablo, I'm so psyched for. I'm definitely going to be streaming that on Friday night.
Hell yeah.
Anything you want to say about Phantom Zone or oh no,
Phantom Zone Comic Club is coming. Comic Club is coming back. I've just been really busy and haven't been able to record with Frank. That'll be soon. I gotta talk to him again because I was supposed to do it last week, and then I got sick, and then
that's why this podcast is a week behind. By the way,
so yeah.
So we're looking forward to that. And I am still on Twitch and YouTube at Freshly Streamed Games. And TikTok, I guess. So the TikTok is just like clips from my streams, whatever. And Diablo will be this weekend. And we'll talk about that in 2 weeks, hopefully.
Hell yeah.
And we'll probably, even though I don't think either one of us is going to play Street Fighter, we'll probably talk about kind of...
I'll watch people play Street Fighter.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I was going to say. And we will see you then. Goodbye.